Hey, I'm Cheshire from Cheshire Plays Games. Today we're going over a very special deck tech. It's something special to me. Very special to me. Mostly. So instead of doing the Commander 2018 budget upgrade that I was planning on doing, what I might do is I might look at maybe one commander per week. To do something around from one of the decks instead, simply because I feel like the decks aren't focused enough this time around for me to be able to provide good budget upgrades for the decks themselves. It's a lot of work. But I can assure you the decks you're going to see are very fun, especially this one, which is Yuriko, the Tiger's Shadow. So, I hope you enjoy this video. I'll see you on the other side. I grew up infatuated with ninja, karate, jujitsu, and terribly dubbed martial arts film. Jackie Chan? You betcha. So imagine how overjoyed I was when ninjutsu was introduced to my favorite card game back in Kamigawa block, but how amazingly disappointed I was when that block almost killed Magic the Gathering. For the longest time we thought ninjutsu was dead and buried, never to be revived by wizards, and that we would never be able to build a deck that felt like it was doing sneaky ninja stuff. But with Commander 2018's subjective reality, we learned that we were completely wrong, and boy did we get one of the most amazing and powerful casual commanders we've ever seen. Now, a quick note about this deck. Usually I wouldn't justify building a deck solely around the commander, as you won't always have access to casting your commander, but due to Yuriko the Tiger Shadow's ability to circumnavigate command attacks, I can 100% state with certainty we can build around her, because she will always cost 1 blue and 1 black. Also, though this list isn't fully optimized and can use some tweaking, this is the list I've been playing with in paper. Yuriko's currently not due to hit Magic Online until December. Once that happens, you'll definitely see some videos about this as well, because I will do some gameplay, because I love Yuriko. She's so good. If you don't like to turn things sideways, this deck is not for you. This deck is all about combat and not massive damage or massive combo. This is purely all about ninjutsu. So let's get on with it. How does the deck kill? Well, Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow is probably something we should just go straight into and tell you what it is. So she is 1 colorless, 1 blue, 1 black legendary creature human ninja. That's right, she's a Demir. She has Commander Ninjutsu, which means 1 blue and 1 black. Return an unblocked attacker you control to hand. Put this card onto the battlefield from your hand or the command zone tapped and attacking. When a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, a ninja, not one or more, a ninja, so it procs for all of your ninjas. Reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand, so you get to draw a card from Yuriko straight up, even if she doesn't hit anything good. Each opponent loses life equal to that card's converted mana cost. So generally speaking, outside of land, you're going to be doing damage. Yuriko is our go-to for this deck. Everything we should be doing should be focused around getting our attackers through and stacking big expensive spells on the top. This also means that the more ninja we have dealing combat damage, you can't see quotation marks, I know, the more likely we can kill the entire table in a single turn or more. The downside here is that every opponent can see Yuriko coming, so instead of doing sneaky ninjutsu, we need to ensure we can ninjutsu. We can use Sensei's Divining Top, Brainstorm, and Mystical Tutor to help us set up the top card of our deck and try to make use of Yuriko's amazing ninjutsu ability by stacking the top card of our deck. The precon out of the box only comes with 3 ninja. Now this doesn't mean much for Magic Online, but for paper this means a whole huge thing, because it means you have to track down any extra ninjas you want for the deck. Now, we're only currently running 3 in total in the main deck at the moment. It's not many, but we have a way to make everything a ninja anyway. The main thing here is our commander, which everything else we can make a ninja, so it doesn't really matter that much. First up, we have Sakashima's Student. What's the deck without at least one additional ninja throwing shuriken and other terrible stereotypes at your face? The student has a ninjutsu cost of 1 and a blue. And when it enters play, it copies any creature on the battlefield and remains a ninja in addition to the new creature's types. This means that we can copy the biggest, baddest bofo on your opponent's side of the field, and it's still a ninja, so it still gets the bonus from Yuriko. Ninja of the Deep Hours is next up. It has the same ninjutsu cost for a 2/2, so 1 colourless, 1 blue for a 2/2. And when he deals damage to a player, we get to draw a card. Silent Blade Oni is a little bit different. The ninjutsu cost is 4 colours, a blue and a black, but for good reason. Now, it probably seems a bit high, but in fact it's a very strong way to mess with our opponents, because when Silent Blade deals combat damage to a player, you get to look at that player's hand and choose a non-land card. You may cast that card from that player's hand without paying its additional cost. This is pretty nuts, especially if you decide to clone Silent Blade and then make the cloned version unblockable via other means. You could be smashing your opponents with their own amazing cards and emptying their hands. That's it for the ninjas, but we have ways to make every creature we control into a ninja. Arcane Adaption, Conspiracy, and Xenograft. All of these help us to create our very own Foot Clan by making all the creatures you control into ninja. Speaking of doing sneaky stuff, how are we going to ensure our combat damage always makes it through, or at least how our unblockables always go through, considering that we don't have things like smoke bombs? Well, unblockable is our keyword of choice, well, for the most part anyway. We want to run a high number of creatures that have some form of evasion and steer away from anything that really doesn't get through. First up, we have Flitterstep Eidolon, an enchantment creature with Bestow that's an unblockable 1/1. We'll likely never use that Bestow cost. 6 mana to make something unblockable is just really terrible. Let's not ever do that. Let's just play this as a creature because it's unblockable. Speaking of unblockables, we have good old Blighted Agent. Ugh. Alright. Ignore the infect here. We just want this 1/1 sneaky human rogue to get through. So unblockable is the thing that we care about here. I don't think that we'll really kill anyone with the infect. It'd be hilarious if we did, but that's a lot of attacks. By then you should have won the game. Phantom Warrior is a 2/2 illusion warrior that's also unblockable, as well as Latch Seeker being a 1/1 unblockable spirit, and Nurok Invisimancer is a 2/1 human wizard with unblockable. Also, we have some slightly more extravagant creatures, some weird creatures. The first one is Uninvited Geist, which is a 2/2 spirit with Skulk. It can't be blocked by creatures with power greater than its power, and when it deals combat damage, it flips into Unimpeded Trespasser, a 3/3 spirit that can't be blocked. Look, this is an interesting bulk card, but I found it very fun to get that flip in. You can probably actually just replace this with the unblockable from Innistrad because it has hexproof, but at the moment I'm digging it. I'm digging it enough to put it in this deck. Speaking of checking out your bulk, Origins yielded one of the coolest sort of unblockable enablers in the form of Whirler Rogue, a 2/2 human rogue artificer that generates 2 1/1 Thopters when Whirler Rogue enters the battlefield. You can then tap 2 artifacts you control and target creature can't be blocked this turn. So it's a good way to use our other artifacts that we might have in play that we're currently maybe not using, or equipment, things like that, to allow us to get unblockables through. Elusive Tormentor is a really interesting creature here as a 4/4 vampire wizard. This was a buy a box promo if you play in physical cards. So you probably have one of these hanging around somewhere. You may pay 1 generic mana and discard a card to flip this into Insidious Mist, a 0/1 hexproof, indestructible, unblockable, elemental all-star. That's a lot of words to say. It's good because this has a lot of protection and it's not going to be leaving the field anytime soon. Next up, we've got Keeper of Keys. Now, this is a card that I used to overlook constantly, and if it weren't for Caitlin, my co-host on Commander the Gathering, shameless plug, I probably would have never have actually looked twice at this Monarch granting monster. This is a human rogue mutant 4/4, and during your upkeep, if you're the Monarch, your creatures have unblockable this turn. So the Monarch means that at the end of your turn, you draw a card. That's pretty cool. For artifacts, we have the good old bulk equipment Whispersilk Cloak that grants unblockable and shroud. We also have Key to the City that allows us to tap it and discard a card to make a creature unblockable. Key to the City also draws us a card when it's untapped if you pay 2 generic mana, so you're also going to be drawing those cards back rather than just pitching to the void and never seeing them again. On the other side of this, we also have some great creatures that have other types of evasion, as well as some additional effects. The first one here is Rexiel, the Risen Deep, the original type of unblockable. Rexiel's pretty amazing for a beat stick. It's a 5/8 Kraken, but it also has Swamp Walk and Island Walk. So that's going to be a lot of the field when you're playing Commander, generally speaking. There's going to be at least one player that this can hit, which means you can attack with it and then bounce it back if you really want to ninjutsu your commander into play. Now, when it deals combat damage to a player, however, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from that player's graveyard or discard pile. So it's a little bit of extra chaos as well, I guess you could say. It's very cool. Shadow Mage Infiltrator is a must include here. He has fear, so can only be blocked by an artifact or black creature, and he draws you a card when he deals combat damage. Infiltrator is a major fave creature of mine from the old Type 2 era with my Undermine deck. It's very, very cool indeed. Speaking of cool creatures, we have Guilt Feeder, which is a 0/4 with fear. When it's not blocked, the defending player loses 1 life for each card in their discard pile. So late game, you might even just OTK someone, or take extra turns and OTK 2 or 3 people. It's possible. It's a very cool card. Next up, we have Vel the Nightclad. This is an auto-include when it comes to bouncing ninja fun. Vela provides Intimidate to all of your creatures, not just Vela herself, but also whenever a creature leaves the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. This is pretty great as we want to be bouncing creatures back when we can with our ninjutsu abilities, and it really helps us do that. Next up, we have good old Baleful Strix, which seems to be reprinted in everything nowadays. But I'm not going to complain. This burb draws us a card when it enters play. It has flying and death touch, so that's some pretty good pseudo unblockable evasion. You know what I mean. Back to Yuriko, the Tiger's Shadow. We need some great big spells to help us kill everyone. So let's look at some big spells that we can use to make our life a little bit easier. And maybe we can get some cheaper, because, you know, there's things like Delve. Delve was, of course, one of the most broken mechanics that Wizards have ever created, where you can reduce a spell cost using a Delve spell. So what that would be is you play the spell that has Delve, you then remove X amount of cards from your discard pile from the game to reduce the generic cost of that spell, such as Dig Through Time, that allows us to look at the top 7 cards, choose 2 of them, put them into our hand. Now, the thing to remember is that even though it has a cost reduction, the full cost is what's calculated by Yuriko's ability when you draw it from the top of your deck. So it'll do the full 8 damage to all players. Not unlike Treasure Cruise that draws us 3 cards, or Temporal Trespass that nets us an extra turn, and that means much more damage. Speaking of extra turns, we have Beacon of Tomorrows. This not only nets us an extra turn, but also shuffles itself back into our library after we play it. And hey look, it's Nexus of Fate. Okay, sure, look, I do play Nexus at every possible opportunity I can manage. It stops us being milled out, it shuffles back in, you don't care much about discarding it, it's very hard to get rid of for your opponent, so generally speaking you should never run out of deck. Well, that's it from me today. I hope you really enjoyed this deck tech and Yuriko, the Tiger's Shadow. I am so enjoying this commander. You have no idea how much I'm enjoying Ninja and Ninjutsu. Remember to comment, like, and subscribe. The big thing that you can do to help me out is to share my videos around. If you share my videos, it helps me get views and hopefully subs. Subs don't cost you anything here on the YouTubes, so the more subs I can get, the better, and especially means that I can get more opportunities to bring you some great new content. Also, check out puremtgo.com, where you can see my articles, including this one. This is where you can find this deck list. Please go and visit them, because they're a great collective of writers, including myself and some other people from around the world. And remember, keep cracking packs, not for value, but for draft. I am Cheshire. Thank you so much for hanging out and watching this video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button. Peace.